You're listening to 87 Live. Welcome back, folks, on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Oh.
We have a lot to get to, a whole lot more in late developments.
Unbelievable developments, folks.
I should have introed the show by easier to understand in the Cleveland Browns front office. Yes. You're listening to 87 Live.
For those of you that do not have, if you have an iOS or an Android device and you do not have the SportsCenter app, get it, because some of these things that pop up, you'll just shake your head that you didn't know before anyone else did.
Reminder that this and every broadcast is brought to you by CG Imaging. That's cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. So, had a fantastic show last week. Lots of NFL talk. Ran over time.
It was worth it, though.
More of the same coming up. We have Monty stopping by in a little bit to break down the Central Division offseason reports in the NBA as we get closer and closer to NBA training camp. And first, we are going to jump right into the Major League Baseball pennant races. There is a whopping, well, today's over, so 10 days basically left in the season. And most of the division races, you can put a fork in. They're done. Races like the NL East, the
NL West.
West
tonight, if the Dodgers win, they lock it up, which is huge.
And even if they don't win tonight, it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
The AL East, Boston will claim that division. Barring a miraculous comeback, Detroit will win the AL West, or Central. I'm sorry, and same thing with the Oakland Athletics taking the Western Division. You got to tip your cap to the Oakland A's. We talked about it a little bit last week. I had no idea that they would take that division. Absolutely not.
It's just they're always one of those teams, man, that you never know. Not that you never know where they're going to end up, but they always find a way to sneak in. You know, either the wild card or winning the division. I mean, no one has talked about Oakland at all this year. There's been so many other storylines, and just like you said, no one would have seen this coming, and there they are. You know.
Well, we talked about it last week. We thought it was the Angels division to have, and Texas would fight them, and Oakland would be that third-place team. Seattle flashed a little bit, but they went back to Dennis Green territory. We are who they thought they were.
Yeah.
And then, we were all right about the Astros being miserable. 51 games to date.
And really, I mean, you look at it with the American League wildcard race, talking about Texas, you and I both picked them to win that division. And it looks, I mean, there's a good shot because of the slide they had going up to their victory last night. It's a good shot. They might not even make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they continue to play the garbage baseball they've been playing all September. And the way Cleveland and Baltimore, I think the Yankees might be out of it. They've been kind of waffling. But Cleveland and Baltimore have been playing really well lately. And, man, Texas better watch it. Them and Tampa, because they could easily find themselves out of the playoffs.
If you want to join the discussion, the phone number is 585-633-7487. Once again, 585-633-7487. You can also email us at youguyssuck@87sportsfans.com. And our Twitter handles at 87sportsfans or facebook.com/87sportsfans.
Yeah.
So we sit here now with Texas and the Tampa Bay Rays tied for the wild card spots. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Cleveland Indians, who are a half game back, adding some drama to this. But then you still have the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles are 2 back, and then you have the Kansas City Royals and the New York Yankees 3.5 back. I got to tell you, I never in my life have I checked for a team's outcome other than the Mets like I am for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
I want this team to make the playoffs so bad because I really want a Royals. The more I thought about it, the course of last week, because we talked about it on last week's show, mm-hmm. I really want a Steelers, Pirates, Royals, Pirates Royals World Series.
Well, if you look at it, there's a huge game. There's actually 2 very important games going on right now. One of them is New York just won. They just beat Toronto. And 2, Kansas City is up on Cleveland right now in the 7th, 4-2. I mean, those 2 victories could shift all of this, and Baltimore and Boston is tied. So if Boston ends up coming back and beating Baltimore, Kansas City wins and New York wins, it's just going to shake it up even more. It's unbelievable that this is going on.
Things get a little tighter.
What's that?
Things are just a little tighter.
Oh, it's unreal. It really is. I don't remember the last time this many teams have been fighting for the 2 wild card spots, and it's been as close. I mean, it's ridiculous how close it is.
Texas and Tampa Bay 2-2 in the top of the 10th, and in the top of the 9th. Oh, they just went to the middle of the 9th. Baltimore 3, Boston 3. So Boston's coming up for their last at bats.
Yeah.
And the Royals with a 4-2 lead on the Indians in the bottom of the 7th. So we may have some more talk later in the show about this. But and don't forget the all-important Milwaukee-Chicago Cubs game.
Yeah.
Which is only important because Ryan Braun was visiting with his teammates today. That was very thoughtful of him.
Oh, I thought it was important because Chicago's got to get to 64 wins for the end of the season. So
no. I was more focusing on the report that Ron Renicky came out and said that Ryan Braun was in talking to his teammates, and seeing how they were, all of a sudden he's the concerned teammate. But when he was cheating and lying and posturing and getting other people to buy in and setting his own teammates up to look like jackasses, no, that didn't bother him.
Well, he's the second coming of A-Rod. Because A-Rod did similar things.
He's a schmuck, is what he is. Absolutely.
I don't want to wish ill on anyone, but I hope he comes back and he's a shell of his former self. Because damn well that he's doing all of this because of his PR rep or agent. They're telling him exactly what he needs to do and what steps he has to follow. Just because listening to the way he spoke before, after, he is not a humble person. And I don't see him doing this out of the kindness of his own heart. I believe someone is pulling the strings, telling him exactly what to do. So for me, he's made his money. Hopefully he just fades away. I mean, that's I think, best case scenario in this whole thing.
Agreed. So the Royals are playing this all-important series against the Indians. They lost, they won last night, 7-1. And I'm looking at this just to make sure that I got the score right. Yeah, it's 4-2. I'm getting all confused on Baseball Reference's website right now. So just bear with me, folks. I'm sorry, that was Monday's game, and then Tuesday's game they lost. So today being the proverbial rubber match, one of my favorite phrases in all of sports. And then they played the Texas Rangers for 3 games. So if the Royals end up taking this and can put up a fight against the Rangers coming up, my dreams may just come true.
Well, Baltimore can pull this out. Who would now? Kansas City is completely out of left field, and I don't think anyone expected this. But if they can pull out a victory on Boston, Baltimore's going to be a game back in the wild card. And Baltimore, they've just, ever since Cal Ripken retired, they have been just this goofy little anomaly that teams would beat up on. And, for us in Rochester, they were, for a long time, the parent team of the Red Wings. And so I used to pay attention to what Baltimore did just out of curiosity when it came to our home team. But, ever since they left and the Twins moved in, I haven't really paid any attention, and I don't think anyone has because Boston hasn't really done anything. And now, to think that they might make the postseason this year is amazing.
All right. They're a story of a team that has overcome their owner, to be sure, Peter Angelos.
Oh, yeah.
Any Orioles fan, regardless of what's going on right now, and there's I opened up the Gamecast on the Orioles-Red Sox game, try to keep track because I saw the Red Sox.
See, I leave my speakers off.
Well, you see, I can't, and so I thought I had the autoplay set to off on ESPN.com, but apparently not. Will Middlebrooks is on first with nobody out, it looks like. So we'll see what happens there at the bottom of the 9th as the the Orioles and Red Sox are tied up going into it. So, again, even Cleveland. I mean, yeah, they had their run in the '90s where they were the American League's Pittsburgh Pirates. Mm-hmm. Even the Indians, I would love to see get a shot just because they have been as atrocious, and it'll be really interesting to see Francona go back to Boston for a playoff game.
Yeah, and to me, there are two coaches in the American League and National League that I think should be the front runners for Coach of the Year, and it is Francona for what he's done in Cleveland, which is a miracle. It's a little short of a miracle. And then I think one of the obvious choices would be Don Mattingly with the Dodgers, because that turnaround, and a lot of people today were saying on sports radio and whatnot, where is his extension? I think he's proven that everything that happened this season happened exactly the way he said it did. He said, listen, we had a bad start. We had injuries, and there was the fluke fight where Kershaw got knocked out with the injury. And he said, once everyone gets healthy, we're going to be a great team. And yeah, Puig was a surprise, and it was a nice little catalyst. But just as he said, as everyone got healthy and came back, the team just took off. And now they are probably the most dangerous team in the National League. I'm not saying necessarily the best, because the Braves are still, in my opinion, on the top of the mountain. But the Dodgers, the way they're playing and the talent on their team, I wouldn't want to play them in the postseason. And a lot of that has to be because of Mattingly. You can say what you want about him. I am a huge fan of his from back in his playing days, but he is one hell of a coach. And what he did this year was incredible, putting up with all of the negative talk and how he was going to lose his job. I mean, a month into the season, no one thought he would be the manager at this time of year. Everyone thought he was going to lose his job. And here he is leading his team with a win tonight to the first, I can't even remember the last time they won the division.
Well, let's not get crazy here, okay? This roster is not as suspect as they would have you believe. You know what I mean? Mattingly's got the players. All right. It was shocking and appalling what was going on in this team all the way up into the beginning of June. When the infamous Yasiel Puig call up was made. Yeah, he deserves an extension. He shouldn't be dangling in the wind. No. You know what I mean? You can't write it off and say, well, you had the players, you should have won anyway. That's not how it works in sports. You can't put a collection of names together and go win. Just ask the Toronto Blue Jays.
Ask the New York Yankees.
Well, yeah, but they've done it in the past. They're a bad example. They've found a way to make it work at times, So
yeah, but I mean, for the most part, every time the Yankees brought in one of the big names, it didn't work out. I mean, they had rare examples with Roger Clemens, but look at the Randy Johnson years. And I mean, how many other players have come and gone that were big names that were brought in by the Yankees? I mean, you look at their current roster right now. I mean, they have a lot of big names on the team and they're just, I mean, yeah, they're close to that wild card position, but I don't know. I think the Dodgers did have a lot of bad luck, and I just, for me, it's the way the team turned around was something short of a miracle. Just because it was such a freaking mess. I mean, to use an example for another LA team, and I don't mean this in any way to rub salt in the wound, the way the Lakers were at the beginning of this past season, it was a train wreck, and they were able to pull it together to almost make the postseason. But it was kind of a similar thing with the Dodgers when the season started. It was just a mesh, and like I said, there was injuries, and just people weren't playing together. And the man ended up pulling them together. I mean, it was almost like a Phil Jackson-esque feat on his part, because he got these names, like you're saying, this roster. He got these men to finally play together, and he was the disciplinarian when it came to Puig, and he knew exactly when to sit him and exactly when to talk to the media about it. He just has done everything right. Since June. I give you that. Before June, it was a mess. But since June, he's done everything right.
You can't argue with that. You really can't. So I'm not going to. See how that works?
Oh, my God.
You like that?
So I just got to bring up the Dodgers, and that gets you to stop arguing with them?
It's because you are what your record says you are. Okay, if you go on and you lose, then you're not a good team that lose. You're a losing team. You know what I mean? You have to play the games in front of you, and you have to win those games. It sounds so stupid and cliched and easy, but it's true. And for all of the gurus, the what do you call it? The geniuses that we call them, like the Phil Jacksons, who, is Phil Jackson a better X's and O's coach than any other coach in the NBA? Probably not. You know what I mean? There's nothing that really makes him head and shoulders above when it comes to teaching the game. What he does do is manage the superstar NBA ego probably better than anybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you can make Michael Jordan pass the ball, thumbs up in my book. You know what I mean?
No, seriously.
The same thing with Kobe. Kobe bought into the triangle. You know what I mean? So those little things, you know what I mean, as far as managers and coaches, that becomes what the job is really all about. And the fact that they couldn't win a lick, if he makes the wrong call in the bullpen week after week, if he's driving guys into the ground by throwing them too much, if he's not responding to slumps and changing the lineup and trying to find one that works, if he's okay with mediocrity, as far as you got a number 3 hitter that's not driving in any runs or not getting on base, and you don't make any changes and you just ride it out, you fall asleep at the wheel, and that's on you. But I don't see any signs of him doing that. It just wasn't clicking for whatever reason. And Puig is not a perfect player by any stretch of the imagination, but he came up, he got on a hot streak, and like I said last week, he made it fun again for them. So kudos to them. 585-633-7487 if you want to join the discussion. 585-633-7487.
So in this point in the season, who is your most disappointing team? The one you thought was going to be so much better than they were, and they've just piddled up.
It's the Washington Nationals. I mean, you can say what you want about injuries and whatnot, but I picked that team to be to win 100 games. I thought they were going to set the NL on fire, and they're looking up at the Braves. Do
you think Strasburg is going to come back to be anything like he was, or is he going to be another Kerry Wood?
Well, the thing is, what was he? He was a rookie who could throw pure gas. You know what I mean? And it was moving. It wasn't a straight line fastball, but he had what it took. But we only saw it for not even a year. So I'm not sure we know exactly what Strasburg was supposed to be. Can he still be very good? Well, absolutely. Can he be a Cy Young winner? Absolutely. But if people don't start learning about these guys that come up just throwing gas, okay? You look at Aroldis Chapman, who has been hurt, not nearly as bad. You look at Strasburg. You look now at Matt Harvey, who's trying to play a giant game of chicken with putting off Tommy John surgery in his elbow. Okay, these guys come up and they throw hard, and it's great and everything, but something's lacking here as far as wearing out that joint, wearing out that wing. And I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure out what the answer is. To say less, well, what is less? You know what I mean? You can't. Yeah. You can't quantify that.
Do you think this stems because you've played baseball in high school and earlier? Do you think this is pushing it too hard when they're kids, when they're pitching in peewee or little league and junior high and high school, when they're making them, they're not fully developed yet? Do you think they're just really pushing it too far?
It's probably a combination of everything, you know what I mean? Because Little League has innings limits. Even if you're not in the official Little League, every youth league nowadays has innings limits, so they can only throw so many innings per week to try to protect arms. I think what really is where they get really abused is in the high school and college game more than anything. And once you get to the minors, nowadays anyway, everyone's really, really concerned about pitch counts and everything like that. But in high school, if you got a team that is one of those upper echelon teams and you've got one really good arm, well, you're kind of looking the other way when it comes to sectionals time, you know what I mean? And just kind of saying, you think you can gut it out? You think you can gut it out? And maybe that doesn't have anything to do with it. Maybe it's just a very small sample and everything like that. But that mindset has to be consistent all the way up into the college game, where you get more quality people around you. Maybe, in high school it's very easy to be the guy. You know what I mean? The only guy that's got a shot at playing, upper echelon ball after high school. But in college, you get more similarly talented people around you. Mm-hmm. But if you're on a hot streak, it's probably just a lot of little things adding up. And then when they get into the majors, it's an adrenaline rush, man. It's got to be. I don't know, but it's got to be. So you just go out there, and even though you're telling yourself to calm yourself down and don't overthrow, you're still freaking throwing gas out there. You know what I mean? And it's an awful lot of torque on that joint. The human arm was not made to throw overhand.
Yeah.
That's.
You could look at going on, and I agree with you on the whole adrenaline. You look at how Jabba Chamberlain was when he first came in the league. I mean, he was going out there, and it was like it was a World Series game every time he pitched, and burned himself out, injured himself, and he's never been the same since.
You could write it out. You can be completely lucky, and you never have an injury. But now it's all the signs are pointing to the fact that there's going to be something, whether it's serious, whether it's not so serious. There's going to be something that comes up, and to me, if you're throwing all your money on young pitching talent coming up, well, it's as much of a crapshoot as anything else, because chances are, even if you get them up, then they're going to have elbow or shoulder injuries, just like the Mets are having with Harvey. Thank God they have a couple arms coming up. The Wheeler's up now. They got the guy who's at Double-A this year, and I'm blanking out on his name. They have another, semi-prized arm that came over in the R.A. Dickey deal. So their eggs aren't all in one. Their eggs aren't all in one basket. But you remember Generation K with Isringhausen, Pulsifer, and Wilson, and they all flamed out with injuries. And Isringhausen put together a nice career as a closer. Paul Wilson bounced around a couple teams. Bill Pulsifer was a middle reliever for a little while. None of them were what we all thought they were.
See, maybe Doc Gooden had it right. You need a little cocaine to loosen you up, and then you'll have a long career.
Hey, you can't criticize the man. Well, yeah, you can.
I'm not criticizing him. I'm saying, him and LT, they knew what they were doing. They both had long careers, and they're both in the Hall of Fame. So, I'm not promoting drug use, kids. I'm just making a joke.
I don't think Dwight Gooden's a Hall of Famer, but we'll. I'll look into that on the break. So Monty's coming soon. So let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll go down to the NBA Central Division with the sportologist, Monty Broadus. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Cold.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Little Beastie Boys remix there to get the blood pumping again. But that intro just kills me. It's way too long. That's why remixes drive me crazy.
You gotta change it.
Remixes just drive me crazy, and then we got too much echo there. So First, before we get into the NBA, we want to talk a little bit about CG Imaging and what do they do? Well, they bring your ideas to life, and they do it with realistic 3D animation. Say you're trying to sell an idea to your boss, and your ideas and your sketches just aren't doing the trick. Go to CG Imaging. Maybe you're selling a product to a client, and you want to show that client what your product looks like in their space. CG Imaging can make that happen. Say maybe you're starting a business and you need a logo. Well, they designed our logo and the header for our website. So go to their website, cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. And now we're joined through the power of the internet by our NBA guru, Lamont Broadus, the Sportologist. Follow him on Twitter at the Sportologist. Monty, welcome to the show.
What's up, fellas? Let's get into it.
Yeah, basketball.
I know this is your bedtime.
I love it. I'm sorry. I miss playing, and I just love basketball so much. So anytime we talk about it, it gets my juices flowing.
This is Monty's bedtime. So I'm playing.
Can I lead off with a headline out of this Central Division, since that's what we're going with?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you guys heard or not, but my man and said that hey, let's attention with the Pacers. I said like a man because basically he's letting his team know up front they can build around him. I'm going to sign long term to get them in basketball. I can respect that.
Oh, you were cutting out. Were you talking about Paul George?
Oh, I'm sorry about that, guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you talking about Paul George?
Yeah, I was basically saying that Paul George, I respect what he did by coming out and saying that he's going to sign the extension. He's not playing any games, and he basically just did it like a man. Hey, I'm going to sign the extension. You guys can build around me. Let's play some basketball.
Well, then let's start with the Pacers while you're there. Paul George is the guy that really came on to the scene last year, and maybe it, mostly, or I don't want to say mostly, but Danny Granger's absence, as far as offensive attention, probably had a little bit to do with it. But Paul George really took control of that team and made himself to be that number one scoring option there. You look in the offseason, they lose Psycho Hansborough, but they still have the core there. Danny Granger's coming back, hopefully healthier than last season. David West still at the 4, which I thought was a big decision to bring him back. I thought it was a smart decision. Roy Hibbert, who had a defensive coming out party in the playoffs, and the point guard George Hill. To me, you can't. I don't see them as being a one-trick pony last year and then they'll flame out. I think this team's going to be around for a while. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if you look at them, they're probably one of the most balanced starting 5 in the NBA as far as youth, ability, and I agree with you, Keith. I don't see them going away. I put them right in the top echelon in the Eastern Conference. You definitely have Miami at number 1, but Indiana's got to be in the top 5, or possibly in the top 3. What do you think, Monty?
I definitely agree with you guys. I think that they hit some key acquisitions when they added Louis Scola, who is a undersized big man, but he always made his living on getting rebounds and just doing a lot of trash work, basically. So I thought that throughout his NBA career, he was kind of underrated a little bit because you can get some production out of him. They also added Chris Copeland from the New York Knicks, who was another guy that can be on the perimeter. Kind of, you throw him on the star to kind of stop him, slow him down. That was a big acquisition for them as well. The thing that they got in the East, gentlemen, is the fact that they got a big man. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that Hibbert is the second coming of Shaq or anything like that, but Hibbert has progressively gotten better throughout his seasons with them. We've seen that he's going to be a defender. He's going to guard the rim for you. And his biggest thing is that he just needed to work on his offensive game. I think he's coming around. Big men in the league always take a little bit longer to develop unless they are just a phenomenal talent. But they always take a little bit longer to develop, and I think he's finally starting to get it. The way that this team plays all together, like you said, they're very, very balanced. They play off of each other. It's not like you just give somebody the ball and then they just do a whole bunch of ISO plays. They play as a team. They play team defense. This Pacers team is actually, like you said, they're going to stick around, and it's amazing to see their transformation from going when, they were in the playoffs when they had, remember the whole Steven Jackson debacle and, Ron Artest and all of that, Jermaine O'Neal days and everything like that, then going kind of, subpar again, and then now starting to come back up. It's amazing. Indiana has done a phenomenal job to turn around that franchise. Larry
Bird, Executive of the Year.
Well, if there's one concern I have, it's second team scoring. Scola can score. Lance Stevenson can score, but none of those guys, you really look at and you know what their game is and you feel confident, in spelling the starter ahead of them. I'm sure there'll be some kind of mix so that neither one of those guys is like the guy on the floor at all times. But if there is a question mark about this team, that would be it. But offensively, Paul George is as good a two-guard as there is in the league. Hibbert, like you said, a more than competent big man down underneath. But on the defensive side, too, they can defend the perimeter and they can defend the paint. And they're going to be a hard team for the years to come as long as they can keep it all together. Mm-hmm. Looking at who's under contract for when. This is Danny Granger's last year under contract. Like you said, Paul George as well, but he said that he will re-sign. They have $12 million committed to David West for next year. George Hill's under contract through 2017. Scola through next year. So they have a good core already under contract where they don't really have to worry about jumping through.
And I think they'll try to get some value for Granger. There's some teams out there that could use Granger, even playoff teams or whatever like that. But I think we should see Danny Granger move this year, just because of the fact that they want to make sure that there's no hiccups with Paul George, since they're going to go ahead and sign him for a long-term contract. So, and it's unfortunate for Danny Granger to get injured. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just the nature of the business. So I definitely see Danny Granger getting moved somewhere this year while they still, it's the last year of his contract. So regardless of whoever he signs with is a team that wants to keep him or not, that's going to be very good to be able to move him as a bargaining chip for them.
All right. Let's slide on down now to the Chicago Bulls, a team who more people talked about who wasn't there last year than who was on the floor last year. Now, supposedly, Derrick Rose is both mentally and physically ready to play. Jimmy Butler penciled in as the starting two-guard. Luol Deng at the 3, Carlos Boozer at the 4, Joakim Noah at the 5. Really more of the same, except for the big. I feel funny calling him a question mark, but he really is. But it's Derrick Rose. He's had an entire year off. What's your thoughts on this team going forward for this year, Monty?
Well, I'll sneak in here real quick.
Okay, I was going to say.
No, that's fine. I'm just going to sneak in real quick. I want to hear what Monty has to say. My only take on this, and Keith, you know how much I criticize Derrick Rose and how he acted last season. Derrick Rose, to me, has to come out and not just have a good year. He has to have another MVP season to make fans forget about what happened last season. If he comes out and just does okay and just does well, I don't think that what happened last year isn't going to cause issues with the rest of the season. I'm kind of curious to see what he's going to be like, because he says he's mentally and physically ready, but we'll get him on the court. I'm really interested to see how he's going to play. And if he has more issues like he had last year, the Bulls could very easily slip away from being at the top echelon of the East. So it really does, I agree with you, it all hinges on Rose and what he can bring to this team. All right, Monty, I'm sorry, that's all you know.
No, you're good. First of all, I'll definitely touch on Rose, but I want to throw out a point out there that nobody said anything. I hate Carlos Boozer.
So does the Jazz and the Cavaliers. Oh, you're a Cavs fan. That's why.
No, I hate him because he's a big name that has been passed around, that has shown flashes of doing certain things, and in big situations, big time situations, he has disappeared off of the face of the world.
So the way he played the city of Cleveland has nothing to do with it.
No, not at all. Like I said, I'm not. Look, guys, I'm a homer. Don't get me wrong. I root for my teams, but at the same time, I'm a realist. You're not gonna meet another fan like me. I'm a realist as well. Yeah, he dogged Cleveland by saying let him out of his contract and all this other stuff, and he would come back, and he didn't. Okay, and it doesn't matter. I followed the guy throughout his career. I don't hold grudges. It's a business. And he's disappeared in large moments. He just doesn't show up when it comes down to big moments. So I don't like Carlos Boozer for that because he commands a lot when he asks for his contract. He gets paid big bucks to basically play decent during the regular season and disappear in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, because I was going to move to Derrick Rose.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. Now, with Derrick Rose, I understand everybody's waiting, anticipating, and waiting to see what he's going to bring back on the court. But let's not forget, guys, this was a totally different Bulls team when Derrick Rose was playing at an MVP level. He's a great and phenomenal talent. But at the same time, I felt that when he played at that phenomenal talent, everybody got starstruck on the Bulls team. And I don't think that they were as good as they were and played together as they do when he is on the court and playing at that high level. Now, if he could somehow come back and play at that superstar level and incorporate and involve everybody so that they can play team defense, they can play team offense as well, then all for the Bulls, I think they would definitely be unstoppable because the Heat have their weaknesses is going against dominant point guards and their weaknesses going against dominant big men. That's their weaknesses right now. So if he can come back and incorporate his whole team, they definitely will be as scared for Miami. And can push them because we've seen with Derrick Rose being out. The Bulls, of course, went to the playoffs, and I know they'll go to the playoffs again because it's a weak Eastern Conference, or it's a top-heavy Eastern Conference. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, like I said, the Bulls played team ball last year, and you know what I'm saying, and they just had a different dynamic around that team without Derrick Rose. When he's in there, like I said, they get starstruck, and that's one thing I don't want to see happen for the Bulls if he comes back and he comes back in that high superstar MVP type level.
When I look at this Bulls roster, and I'm just going to throw this out there, Derrick Rose is probably going to have a god-awful November just because he's been out for a year. That's got nothing to do with my thoughts on Derrick Rose. My issue with Derrick Rose is his style of play from the point guard position. He plays downhill like a bull in a china shop. He's already shown a tendency to get injured, and so when if he invariably will get hurt again and have to leave, this team is remarkably thin.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at Jimmy Butler is your starting two guard. Okay, last year it was Bellinelli and Rip Hamilton, at the two spot.
They lost their catalyst from last postseason with Nate Robinson leaving.
Right. Nate Robinson got a lucky hand. I'm not a big Nate Robinson fan. But after Boozer, Taj Gibson, still. After Dang, Tony Snell. I mean, there's not a lot of options on this team. So Derrick Rose has to be able to get his act in shape by January, February.
Let's not forget too, Dang may not be there as well because Dang and the team cannot come to any kind of contract negotiations, and that basically fell dead. And so I believe that they'll be moving him as well. Now, what they get back for him is going to be a question. Hopefully they add some more depth. But I don't really see Dang staying there past the trade deadline.
Yeah. He's got a $14 million contract for them to try to move. So it'll be very interesting to see if you have any takers for.
I think it will be. They can't do like an extension or anything like that. How many years does he have left on his contract?
This is it. This is his final year, so it's an expiring. So that they got that going for him.
Right. People like expiring contracts.
Yes. But you look at for a player whose efficiency rating the last 5 years, and I'm a big believer in these sabermetric stats, 14.7, 16.1, 15.5, 14.1, 15.1. He's a 15.8 efficient player for his career, which is about the league average. So, how much is anybody going to?
He brings defense. He brings versatility as well at that 3 spot, and a lot of people, especially in the Eastern Conference, will want him basically to try to stop LeBron or slow down LeBron. That's basically what he is in that Eastern Conference spot to do, and he's not the best and the prettiest scorer, but he will still give you at least 12 to 15 points a game at least.
Right. Do you think if the Bulls do move him, will they move him to another Eastern Conference team, or do you think they'll try to shoot him off to the West just to get him out of the conference?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, if it's like a team because I basically said that the Cavaliers might take a gander at it. I mean, if it's a team like the Cavaliers, yeah, they'll move them to the Cavaliers just because they're not really. I mean, Cavaliers is there almost on the playoff brink, but I don't think they're actually there yet. They're still missing. We'll get there, but you know what I mean. It just depends on what team it is. If it's a sorry team, it wouldn't be the Raptors, of course, but I'm saying if it was like a Raptors or a Bucks or something like that, I'm sure they could care less. But of course, they wouldn't move to somewhere where they know that it would be it would come back to bite them in the butt, basically.
Yeah, because moving them to Cleveland, I mean, that might make sense for them because, I mean, you're looking at, like you said, they're a young team and they're up and coming, so they're not going to probably cause too much waves this year. But if they can move him and get something like a Tristan Thompson or an Earl Clark, I mean, that might be beneficial to the Bulls. Get a little youth on the team, get some fire, somebody that might not have the ego that Dang has.
Right, and that's what I was saying. The Cavs, what they're based on is they have draft picks and they have a ton of draft picks and they have a cluster jam at the 4 position. And I really think that, like I said, Carlos Boozer for them has to be concerned that he's making all that money and he's not efficient as much as they want from him. Taj Gibson. He's a decent player. I'm not gonna just crap on him or anything, but he's not that guy that's gonna just come in and just light it up and start up. But if they do get rid of a Tristan Thompson, somebody somewhere, I think that they can wheel and deal for some things, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
The only player on the Cavaliers roster with an expiring contract is C.J. Miles. So,
see, there you go. Not just.
So while we started talking about it, I was going to try to save your hometown team for last there, but let's talk some Cleveland Cavaliers now. The big signing, Andrew Bynum, $12 million cap hit right there, only for 2 years. Anderson Varejao still under contract for the next 2 years. The Cavaliers have everybody but C.J. Miles under contract through next year. So have they decided whether Anthony Bennett's a 3 or a 4 yet?
No, unfortunately, and I keep telling people that he's more of a 4 than a 3. I've watched plenty of tape on this guy, and he lacks the dribble creativity capability of anything just to be a 3 in this league. I think he would get torched at the 3. I mean, can you really imagine putting this kid up against a LeBron James or somebody like that?
Oh my God!
Right. I mean,
if he doesn't have,
not fair.
Yeah, if he doesn't have the handle, it'll just be a disaster.
Well, now I got a question for you. Do you think if Bynum pulls this year what he did last year with the Sixers and has a very similar season?
He didn't play last year, so you don't want.
I know that's what I mean. I mean, who knows if Bynum is even going to play a game for the Cavs? I mean, you never know. You never know with this guy. If he does, or if he comes back and plays, a couple weeks and gets injured, or a month and gets injured, do you think after the Cavs anyone would give this guy another shot, or is this like Bynum's final move to try to resurrect his career?
I really think that this is the final move, just because of the fact that he's seen that the market wasn't really that big for him already. Mm-hmm. And then the type of contract that the Cleveland Cavaliers offered him, we haven't really seen in basketball in I really don't remember that many contracts that was laced like how this one is. Based off of strictly performance, you kick in for bonuses. I mean, it really, really looked like an NFL contract that he signed. So I really don't see him going anywhere else because I think that it'll continue to be more big men coming in. You got overseas players, big men that I'm pretty sure that they would rather some 7-footer want to shoot threes over trying to bring him in. So I really don't see it. And then we already seen Greg Oden get scooped up with Miami. So, I mean, these guys, between him and Oden, I mean, this is it. You know what I'm saying? If they do nothing, that's it. They're done.
Bynum's got a bad reputation of being a mental case. And so if he can't put it together here, then I totally agree with Monty. He'll sign a veteran minimum contract, if anything, to stay in the league. So he got his.
He
money
does have
there.
the best afro since AC Green, though.
Well, that was 6 months ago. Who knows what it's like now?
He might have the Michael Jackson going now, the long flowing hair.
I look at the Cavaliers, and I'm looking at ESPN.com's depth chart for them, and obviously Bynum's the starting center, and then Tristan Thompson. They have Earl Clark as a 3, who's kind of tall to be a 3. He played both the 3 and the 4 for the Lakers last year, and I was really disappointed as a Laker fan to see him go. But there's questions at the 2 guard with Deion Waiters. I'm not sold on him being a starter at the 2 guard position yet. I mean, Kyrie Irving is what he is, all world point guard. But for scoring, if it's a 1-5 scenario where most of the offense is centered around the 1-5, if Bynum is healthy enough to carry that kind of a load, it could work. But you can't rely on anybody else but Irving at this point right now.
Yeah, I agree, man. The roster is kind of different. I don't know, like on Twitter and everything like that, there's a ton of people that's like, man, we can't wait for the Cavaliers to start up, da-da-da-da-da, this, that, and the other. And I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on the Cavs either, not just yet, because I don't see I mean, they had some great off-season by bringing in Earl Clark, and I'm trying to remember the guy they brought in from Golden State.
Jarrett Jack.
Yeah, and Jarrett Jack. There's some very good signings. They drafted Anthony Bennett, which I'm still kind of scratching my head about. I'm still trying to find a way because a ton of people are believing in his offensive talent. That's why I keep hearing that, he's just going to come in and score a lot, but I just don't see it with him being 6'8", 6'9", and just being undersized, man. It's going to be hard for him to do it. I'm not saying it's not impossible because we've seen it done before in the league, but it's going to be very interesting to see what he can bring to the table. And then their Russian guy that they signed that led his team in the overseas league, he was averaging about 19 to 20 points a game. He just led them to a championship or whatnot. I watched some tape on him. He's actually very, very unorthodox, but he does have a great jump shot. But he's not like a dribbler or anything crazy like that. So
that's Sergei Karasev?
Yeah, Karasev. That's right. I didn't know how to really pronounce it, but there you go. You got it.
That's it. That's a Karasev heater. That's a natural nickname right there. Like kerosene, Karasev. It's almost perfect.
Wow.
No, but one guy I will tell you guys to keep a lookout at, because I definitely liked him in the summer league, was Felix, Carrick Felix. I definitely liked his grit and what he did. I'm not saying he's gonna fly off the charts or anything like that, but I think he'll definitely be a very good second unit guy for them. So he's definitely a guy to keep an eye out on and see what he does.
And he's only making $500,000, so teams like those guys. Okay, so Cavaliers done. Let's move.
Pistons and the Bucks.
Let's move over to the Detroit Pistons, a team who thinks that part of the answer to their problem is Brandon Jennings, which I don't agree. But the big move there, Josh Smith, also in the offseason coming over, capable of scoring from that 3 spot. According to this depth chart, Andre Drummond starting at the center, Greg Monroe at the 4 with Villanueva backing him up, and Chauncey Billups playing the 2 guard. Besides Billups' Social Security card coming in handy, what do you see for the Pistons here?
I definitely see Billups getting them a ton of discounts with his AARP card and everything like that. So he'll definitely help that out. But nah, seriously, I think Billups is not going to benefit them as far as like playing or anything like that. But I think he will benefit them as far as having basically another type of coach. I mean, Billups is old as dirt. He's like 76 years old. And he basically, to me, fits into that category of where Jason Kidd is. I mean, like, you know, Billups would probably be being somebody's assistant or something like that right now, not still trying to play ball. But like I said, that makes it easier on their coach for him to be out there and kind of run the floor a little bit for them with this young team. They're going to need it in the locker room because they do have head cases as far as Brandon Jennings and Josh Smith on one team. Oh, my God, don't know how that's going to work out. They're both extremely immature and just freaking head cases. So I don't know how that's going to really work out. I do like Greg Monroe and Drummond. They are definitely some nice, young, talented big men that are coming up in this league. So they do have that working for them. But the biggest thing that's going to turn up to is that if Billups can influence Brandon Jennings not to sit up there and keep shooting dumb shots, have better shot selection, and actually concentrate on being a point guard, which means distributing the ball, not thinking that you have to, score 20 points a game off of, 9 of 20 shooting, stuff like that. Then I think that'll be the best thing that's going to happen for them if Billups can influence Jennings to be a great point guard. Also with Josh Smith, if he can actually realize that, hey, look, I play better interior. I'm not always going to be out on the perimeter. Let me use my athleticism. Let me use my back towards the basket. Let me get back into the transition. Let me dunk, stuff like that. This could be a sneaky dark horse team if they can put it all together.
See, and I think you just said a big key is there's so many players nowadays like Josh Smith that just want to shoot from the outside, which, I mean, I understand you need to have an outside shot to be successful in this league. But when you have the abilities that they have and the athleticism where you can take the ball to the basket, I just, especially in this league now where if you break wind in the direction of somebody, they're going to call a foul. I mean, if you can add like 6 foul shots per game to your scoring, I mean, that's going to help more than trying to raise your 3-point shooting from maybe 30% to 32%. So, Monty, I think you nailed it right on the head. They need to, some of these guys, they need to start really taking it to the hole.
And I'll just point out something from a contractual standpoint. They have 3 very interesting expiring contracts on this team. Charlie Villanueva, Rodney Stuckey, and Greg Monroe. So for a team that is clearly rebuilding from the ground up, if they need to move 1 or even 2 of them, which everybody but Monroe on that list is a backup, there's going to be takers for those guys. And if they can parlay that into draft picks or something for the future, well.
I think you only keep Villanueva if he can grow eyebrows.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can't grow eyebrows, you don't deserve a contract. Like, that's just
such a Celtics fan.
That's just one thing I can't stand. I mean, it's so weird to look at that guy and watch him play because I just don't understand how. I mean, just draw him on, just draw him on or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But get some freaking eyebrows, man. You make some money. You can get some eyebrow replacement, transplant, something. I don't know.
But it doesn't help that he has such a huge head. I mean, no, it's like Frankenstein without the eyebrows.
Yeah, and he's a
UConn. He wears a headband too.
That's true.
And he's a UConn grad, so I've got no use for him.
Anyway, I forget that.
So. All right, jumping over to press for time here. The Milwaukee Bucks. They obviously let Brandon Jennings go. We just talked about him. Luke Ridenour takes over at the point. O.J. Mayo at the 2 guard. Caron Butler at the 3. Ersan Ilyasova at the 4, and Larry Sanders. No, not Gary Shandling from the 1990s HBO series, but actually NBA center Larry Sanders, who I think they overpaid for. Plays the center. When I just read that out loud, and as I'm saying it, there are points on this floor. Is there not, Monty?
There is, but at the same time, it's Milwaukee. That's just what it really boils down to. Like we talked about how they overpaid Sanders before on this show. They just have no other choice, man. This is a team that just struggles to hold on to anybody, period. Caron Butler going up there, I understand. Luke Rittenauer is a nice backup point guard. I don't feel that he's a starter. OJ Mayo is a nice backup shooting guard. He's definitely shown that he has hit his ceiling. I don't know how you guys feel about OJ Mayo, but I think he's hit his ceiling, and he's a head case. So this team in general, I think that you get excited somewhat by the names more than you get excited about what's really out there anymore. Caron Butler is not the same Caron Butler anymore, and this team is definitely destined for the basement and lottery scratch-offs.
Not even the good lottery. It's the scratch-off lottery.
Look, I mean, you look at OJ Mayo. I mean, he's like you said. He's a head case. He's somebody that when he left Memphis, they almost threw a party. And then when he left Dallas, they threw. I mean, he seems like he's the kind of guy that is the person you do not want in the locker room with you, and how he's going to meld with this kind of piecemeal team. I don't know. I agree with you, Monty. I think it's just names. I don't think they're really going to amount to nothing. And they have a guy named Zaza on their team. You cannot win when you have a guy named Zaza on your team. That's all I'm going to say.
Petula, yes. I think my favorite player on that squad right now is Ilya. You said it.
Ilyasova.
Ilyasova.
Yeah, the Illy guy. Illy guy. That's the best.
He kind of looks like a James Franco remake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at his picture now, and I just see him in Pineapple Express, not on the basketball court.
I'm looking at Larry Sanders' profile. He's listed as 6'11", 235 pounds. And we had a saying for that back in the old neighborhood, light in the ass. He's going to get shoved around underneath. But anyway. Well, Monty, thanks for joining us. You're going to stick around and talk a little football in the next segment?
Like I said, I definitely got to put my take on this Browns trade, so I'm going to at least stay for that.
When we come back, we'll also be joined by Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek. We'll break down all of Week 2's action, Week 3's picks, and also we do have to talk about the Trent Richardson trade. And I will lay off the Brandon Whedon jokes as long as I possibly can. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Be right back.
Baby, you're a mystery. Tell me what's a girl gotta do. Looking at the history doesn't seem to give any clue. Just when I think I understand it all, you seem to unravel some more. Ooh, la, la, ooh, I never know nobody like you. Ooh, la, la, ooh, now I know. Baby, you're down the neck. Ooh, yeah, you keep me guessing on the fence, and now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're out and able. Baby, you're a riddle. I'm caught up in the middle of you. I'm trying to think bigger, but I can't seem to figure it through. I wanna make it better, but now I'm scared of looking a fool. Oh, baby, no, I've never been very good at playing it cool.
change our ways. Just keep rolling on and on. Sleep through days and days and days. We work all day and nothing gets done. We don't really care, just passing time. We pass the days, the months, the years. We cash our checks, we lose our souls, we hide our tears. My brain is getting numb, my heart is getting weak, my body's getting old. I'm having trouble speaking, and my eyes can't make believe that they still see. I point to all of this, I'm walking away, I'm leaving no regrets. The end begins today, because it's inconsequential life, it's killing me. It's killing me. Time keeps rolling like a snowball, faster and faster as it goes downhill. The youth you thought would never end it all. Oh, how you wish you could make the time stand still. And all the dreams you have protected, you tuck them away up on a shelf. Well, it seems they felt neglected and ran off with somebody else. My brain is getting numb, my heart is getting weak, my body's getting old. I'm having trouble speaking, and my eyes can't make believe that they still see. I point to all of this, I'm walking away, I'm leaving no regrets. The end begins today, because it's inconsequential life, it's killing me. Feels like I'm lost with no direction. Feels like I'm blowing in the wind. And this is the end. My brain is getting numb, my heart is getting weak, my body's getting old. I'm having trouble speaking, and my eyes can't make believe that they still see. I point to all of this, I'm walking away, I'm leaving no regrets. The end begins today, because it's inconsequential life, it's killing me. It's killing me. Yeah, it's killing me. It's killing me.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. I picked this song to be the rejoin at the beginning of the last segment, but I had no idea the level of intensity that the behind-the-scenes conversation was going to have during the break. It totally fits now.
We are Rocky on a mountain in Russia.
Absolutely. It's the NFL Hour with Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek. Follow him on Twitter at the Fantasy Greek and the website, thefantasygreek.com. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, guys. Keith, Steve, Lamont, how the heck are you?
Oh, great week. Rough week fantasy-wise, but great week.
We We asked Monty to hang out and talk a little NFL because he is a Browns fan.
Oh, you guys suck.
Oh, Keith, you went there.
And if you haven't
You guys
heard,
suck.
which I'm sure everyone has heard, the Browns trading last year's first-round draft pick, Trent Richardson, what some people have called the best skill player on the team, trading him to the Indianapolis Colts for a first-round pick and a bag of Lay's baked potato chips.
Are they the sour cream and onion?
No, not even that, which makes the deal
good.
even that much more questionable. So, Monty, I'm going to give you the floor as a Browns fan. What are your thoughts on the trade?
Look, guys, I'm always the guy that sees the silver lining, as we said before. When they drafted Brandon Weeden, I tried to see the silver lining in that, and I'm going to see the silver lining in this as well. First off, with Trenton Richardson, I believe that they drafted him just completely too high for what running backs go for nowadays. I don't think he should have been a third overall draft pick. To me, being a third overall draft pick, he should have done and produced like Adrian Peterson to me. That's the equivalent of what Cleveland was trying to make him be. But he didn't do that, okay? And for whatever reason, he just didn't do it. You can try to throw, quarterback on him. You can try to throw a ton of different things, but I've seen Adrian Peterson battle the same way on a completely horrible team as well, and he has produced. So basically the Browns, with them having a new regime from the top to bottom, basically, they want to get players in that they bring in. They want to have their people. And basically there's not many players left from the old regime. But the main ones that was there was Trent Richardson and Brandon Weeden as of right now, and a couple of other sprinkles, but those are the main ingredients right there. Apparently this coaching staff did not see what the old regime seen in Trent Richardson, so they said, hey, look, let's try to get the best value we can for this guy while we can. Because I feel that if this season would have gone on more, Trent Richardson could have got injured, or either B, he could have put up a crappy year and then he wouldn't have got the same value. For me to see him get traded for another first-round draft pick, when usually running backs don't get traded for that, a first-round draft pick, I believe that they did what they had to do. The Colts definitely got a good player. I think he'll do good with the Colts, but I think that the Browns just basically made a statement that, hey, look, we're trying to get good now. So we're going to go ahead and make these moves. I'm not going to care what the fans have to say right now because we have a vision and we're going to stick to that.
Okay. Jim, would you like to counter the argument?
Well, I'm not sure that's so much of an argument, but here's the bottom line. This was a bizarre move that the Cleveland Browns made. I understand that they have stated reasons for doing what they're doing, but, come on. They gave away a top 3 draft pick, and I beg to differ with Lamont. Trent Richardson is an elite quarterback. He doesn't have to be Adrian Peterson to garner a top 5 draft pick. He was deemed a top 5 draft pick by everybody who's a college draft scout. He has played like a top draft pick, posting, I want to say it's 1,300 all-purpose yards last season and 10 TDs as a rookie. I'm not even sure that LaDainian Tomlinson put up those kinds of numbers, and if he did, it wasn't by much. The bottom line is we were about to see a team in week 3 finally at full strength with Josh Gordon coming in. Unfortunately, Brandon Weeden messed up his thumb, and I really think what's going on here is he might be injured more than the Browns are letting on. But whatever the case, there's 15 weeks of football to go. And, I mean, after all the moves they made this offseason, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I got their depth chart right up in front of me. I mean, they brought in Paul Kruger. Who else did they bring in here? Desmond Bryant. They've got an array of players, by the way, from their old regime that are still on the team. Almost their entire offensive line is from the old regime. Almost their entire defensive line is from the old regime. So I'm not sure that this has really done much of anything except bring in a top draft pick, which, quite frankly, if they keep up their play that they were keeping up for the first 2 weeks of the season, they were going to get a top draft pick anyway. but we'll never get a chance to see in the regular season whether Brandon Weeden could be the quarterback that he showed us that he was in the preseason, where he was actually pretty impressive. So, I understand that there's a new regime, but come on. If you're going to make these kinds of moves, either make them in the offseason or wait till the end of the season. But right now, potentially, they have just shocked a locker room, and they're all going to walk in and going, why did we just give away our best player?
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with kind of both of you. I could see
Fence rider.
I know. I knew you were going to say that too, you bastard. No, I could see why the Browns did this for the reasons that Monty said. But I agree with Jim is the facts that they didn't do this at the end of the season. That's what I don't get. I mean, the trade was going to be there. The move was going to be there at the end of the season or the offseason with a team that is going to be either the 1, 2, or 3 pick, be it the Jaguars, because the issues they're having with Maurice Jones-Drew over the last couple seasons, and now he has injury issues again, they very likely would have made the same deal for a first-round pick. So for them to just make a jump with a team like Indy, who could still finish pretty high, it makes you wonder why it was done now. That's the only thing that I'm shocked at is why now.
And I want to
get it.
I want to clear up one thing. What my point on if they were going to do anything, do it before the season begins or do it at the end of the season, still would not have included Trent Richardson. He would have been off the table as far as I'm concerned. He's the centerpiece of this team, and now he is gone. And in the modern NFL, there's no sure thing in a first-round draft pick. I mean, let me put it this way. I like Trent Richardson. I think he's a top running back. I think he's an elite running back. I think the Colts got a steal here, and now they've suddenly have a team that should definitely make the playoffs, can contend. They've improved not only the football value, but the fantasy value of Andrew Luck, the football and fantasy value of Trent Richardson, and the football and fantasy value of Reggie Wayne, and name the other playmakers on the team, and including their defense. I mean, the fact that they'll be able to be on the field and actually run the ball is pretty amazing. Now, I don't know. I know Lamont said that he had heard that they were going to be signing Willis McGahee and bringing him in. I mean, God bless. That's great. Again, it's just going to get him through 15 weeks, and we'll see where we are. But this is just such a bad move so early in the season, and it just, quite frankly, makes no sense.
Well, look, I can hear what you guys are saying as far as timing, and I got you. But at the end of the day, if they would have waited to the end of the season, first of all, there's a couple of things that you could be thinking about. I don't know if this trade would have been here. Why? Because the Colts' record would have shooken out. They would have known what kind of first-round draft pick they would have had. And sometimes that makes teams think a little bit more about what they're going to do. Secondly, Trent Richardson has been banged up. I mean, he's definitely a durable guy, and he's tough. I got you. He plays through his injuries, or he definitely tries to. But he is a guy that does get banged up as well. So you have no clue or what could happen as far as, okay, could an injury have happened, especially on this team where they might have had to rely on him heavily, which they really wasn't anyway. But I'm saying something could have happened where maybe he could have got injured still, being on this team. So, I mean, I see what they're doing. They felt that they seen the deal here. They pulled the trigger, and they said, "Hey, look, we're gonna swing, we're gonna shoot." You know what I'm saying? And that's how they felt. So they shot.
I'm just wondering if there was something behind closed doors. If there's something with Richardson in the clubhouse or something that we don't know that also precipitated this.
Well, see, and that's where I wanted to get. There's 3 points I want to make about this trade. First of all, Indianapolis's draft pick is probably going to be a mid to late draft pick. Okay, they're probably going to make the playoffs again. Okay,
It'll be in the 20s.
So Indianapolis,
in the 20s.
Indianapolis got a deal and a half with that. Okay. Secondly, by making this trade now, they know something that nobody else does.
Yeah.
They know they don't want this guy around after this year. And so they're going to get rid of him when the first-round pick is available, because if they wait for the end of the year, chances are Irsay's going to be off looking at rainbow spots on his wall as he comes off another trip. And that's just a joke. He just seems to be out there. So if you got somebody offering a first-round pick now, and you really are absolutely positive as an organization that this guy is not the guy that you want to build your backfield around, then you make the trade. I think the other side of this is that this is not just about Trent Richardson. This is about the whole damn offensive side of the ball. And writing off Brandon Weeden so soon I don't think is fair or right, because you can't tell me that you really know what you have there. You have a second-year quarterback around a suspect offensive line that through 2 games has allowed the most pressures in the NFL. Through 2 games, they've allowed 51 pressures, I saw on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, why?
Which is
Why, though?
Okay, what's your take on it?
Well, they lost a very important part of their line. They lost their guard position, so they've been putting tackles and trying to plug up anything else there. Plus, they tried to convert a running back into a fullback, which was just completely dumb as well.
Right. So
Okay, but wait, Lamont, what you're pointing out has nothing to do with the player personnel. It has everything to do with coaching, management, and scouting. So, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to sit there and say, well, they don't have these things in place, let's get rid of our best player. I mean,
well, no. I was going to give a little bit of a deeper insight when you guys brought up the behind the scenes. And basically behind the scenes, what I've been hearing a lot is the fact that Trent Richardson was complaining about how much he wasn't getting the ball and stuff like that. So it was already becoming friction. And I don't think that their scheme wanted to warrant him getting the ball as heavily as he wanted to have the ball. Now, I'm not saying that basically pulled the trigger on the ultimate trade, but I know that there was winds of friction starting to build there.
what's behind the scenes? Come on.
Well, but I saw that report too that he was complaining. But okay,
that's not a behind the scenes report. That's a report that's in the general knowledge. If Trent Richardson's complaining about something, then we need a good source on that, not just some vague report that somebody could be reading between the lines on. I mean, look.
Okay, I understand what you're trying to say, and I got you. But like I'm telling you, there was things that was building up, and like I said, they pulled the trigger. I'm not going to be mad at them for pulling the trigger if they seen it. They did it. They had the nut. They grabbed their nuts and they did it. I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
All right.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, and the other side,
I disagree, but go ahead.
Well, the other point is that we can't sit here today and judge decisively. We have our opinions, but in 2-3 years from now, we may look back at this and say, you know what, I hated it when it happened, but it really was the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Kind of like when Dallas traded Herschel Walker. Everyone thought they were crazy too. But
and you know what, guys, I don't disagree with that. But you can't sit there and look at this and not say it's absolutely bizarre.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No, it's bizarre.
And that's my point. You have to look at it that way. You can't sit there and sort of search for a reason as to why it made sense, or even listen to their reason and say, oh, well, that makes sense. All I know is exactly what was happening during the press conferences. Reporters were sitting there surprised, and they're sitting there going, wait, you're tanking the season in week 3?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
What is that? Because what this is basically saying is that every other player on that roster, on the offensive side of the ball at least, you're probably not going to be here next year. So how does the brand? It would be very interesting to see what Cleveland Browns football, at least offensively, looks like going forward, even after Weeden gets over his thumb injury. And you know, if they're supposedly going to sign Willis McGahee, okay, great, whoop-de-doo. Running backs, I hear, can get up to speed pretty quickly, so the delay won't be that bad. But going forward now, the mentality, the psyche, what do you do to the player's psyche when somebody like Richardson can be shipped? And if it's because he was complaining, last year he averaged 17.8 rushes a game. Through 2 games, 15.5. Last year he had 3.4 receptions a game. This year he had 3.5 receptions a game. So, yeah, there's a little drop-off in the number of carries per game, but not enough to get anybody whining and griping. So if he did go off the deep end over that, maybe that was a telltale sign that they don't want him around. Obviously, nobody here knows whether that really happened or not. But
yeah, and that's my point. And I find it hard to believe because at the end of the day, he was getting the touches, and if he was ineffective, I don't think it was his fault.
Yeah. How happy do you think this move makes the 0-2 Minnesota Vikings, who are playing them this coming Sunday.
Oh my God! I wish I had their defense in fantasy.
Right?
I know, seriously.
if
I
this-
think I picked it up actually in our league.
If this would have happened in August, Steve would have drafted him for this week.
I did draft him for this week.
Yeah.
I think I have him in 3 of my 4 leagues. I have Minnesota's defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Unbelievable.
Such a Steve move.
I know.
It's so bad that actually I'm not lying. You're going to think I'm making this up, but I just retweeted it. Maurice Clarett tweeted the Browns asking for a tryout.
Really? Wow.
That's the only way that this whole scenario could get more bizarre, is if Maurice Clarett ends up getting another shot.
Unbelievable.
All right. So that went on a little bit longer than I expected, but
That was good, though.
all right. Yeah. Let's go through the NFL Week 2 results and our thoughts and takeaways from that. I will remind all of the participants, please keep comments brief. Otherwise, we will run out of time completely. And let's start with, as I call it up here, the Thursday game, the Jets and Patriots. Patriots winning 13-10. Jim, why don't we start with you? What's your takeaway from that mess?
Exactly that. It was a mess. Very concerned for the Patriots offense, especially against the better defenses in the league, including this coming weekend. The Patriots desperately need to get they need to get their playmakers back on the field.
Gronkowski, is that what you're trying to say?
Sorry, yeah. Robert Gronkowski back on the field.
Hello, is everybody there? Having a little technical
I'm here.
difficulty
Hello,
there.
Keith.
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay, a little internet flare.
Yeah, internet flares.
All right, Jim. So I heard you say about getting Gronkowski back.
Yeah, they desperately need him back, and it's going to hurt them that Danny Amendola's out.
If you're in a fantasy league, if it's just a single season league, not non-keeper league, are you selling Tom Brady right now?
No, I'm willing to wait on him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm willing to wait on him. But right now, if I have a good backup, I'm considering playing him this weekend.
All right. Boys, anything else?
I'd say the Jets, they're kind of who we thought we were, but the Patriots are definitely, without question, the worst 2-0 team in the NFL right now. They got lucky starting the season against 2 rookie quarterbacks and barely winning both games. In fact, it took 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter against the Jets to win that game. So to me, it was just both those teams. If the Patriots do make the postseason, I'll be amazed because I don't, like Jim said, once they play some better teams with better defenses, and when they have to put up more than 13 points like they did against the Jets, I think that there could be some issues with them.
Monty?
And my take on this real quick, first of all, it shows me that the Jets actually are pretty scrappy, man. They're not going to really just roll over. That's what that shows me, first of all. But also with the Patriots, even though they got people coming back, it's not a guarantee that they'll come back and stay back, though. Amendola comes in and out. He basically takes the NFL as a part-time job to me. So, right now it's just growing, but he could go out on something else. Gronkowski has had problems with his back, and from a personal person that has back problems, that can be a nagging thing that's on and off. So it's not a guarantee that they'll be back and they'll stay back and just automatically click. It's an ugly season for the Patriots, and actually I'm laughing at a lot of Patriots fans because they're very arrogant. But they're cool people.
The Patriots.
Wow, way to go!
The Patriots.
Get him angry, and throw him some props.
Right. The Patriots' schedule is home against Tampa, at the Falcons, at the Bengals, home against the Saints, at the Jets, home against the Dolphins, home against the Steelers, at the Panthers, home against the Broncos, at the Texans, home against the Browns, well, just defensively speaking here, at Miami, at Baltimore, and home against Buffalo. They don't have an easy defense on that schedule.
No, they don't.
So it's going to get ugly in a hurry.
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings travel to Soldier Field, and Jay Cutler manages to overcome himself and lead one pretty impressive game-winning drive. Everyone's talking about the difference in Cutler and everything like that, and to me, the difference is he's not on his back. But there were some issues. The Vikings should never have been in this game this long. Jim, what's your take on it?
Well, I agree. I mean, this ended up being a statement game in the division, and the Bears, I mean, they made the statement. They got the win. It's an important win. It'll come back to haunt the Vikings later. It was impressive what they did to Adrian Peterson, pretty much shutting him down. It was nice to see both defenses sort of go at it. You know, as soon as the Vikings get a good quarterback, they'll be such a different team. In the meantime, God bless the Bears. They're so lucky right now. They're set up really nice for this weekend. I don't think it'll be an easy win. I like Jay Cutler, but I don't know that I like him that much for him to be a fantasy standout just yet.
Right.
But Matt Forte, boy, he's good.
Hey, you got to remember, it's 31-30, and the Vikings ran the opening kickback, and they had a fumble return for a touchdown. So it's not all on the defense, but it still was too close for comfort. Steve, what's your take?
No, I mean, for me, being a Bears fan, the best way I could use to describe Chicago right now is cautiously optimistic, because they look like they are on the cusp of gelling under this new system and being something special. But every time they show glimmers of hope, they do something stupid. They turn the ball over, they give up a big play, and I mean, they have played 2 playoff teams so far this season, and they've won both games very close. But I'd be interested to see what happens against Pittsburgh, because the one thing Chicago's good at is playing down to their competition. So this should be a game that Chicago goes in and wins by at least a touchdown, maybe even 2. And if they have another close win, or if they even lose this game, I think it might be time to be a little concerned, because once again, they're just missing something that's keeping them out of the upper echelon.
All right, Monty?
I have to agree completely. I was kind of surprised to see them be 2-0. I definitely was not. I mean, it's 2-0, but that's still pretty decent for them to start off that way. I'm keeping a lookout on Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall, because in some way, somehow, my auto draft in one league had me both of them on one team. And I'm basically like just scared the whole entire time, because all I have to take is one person to kind of, not do so well, and that just, unravels my whole entire team. But that's where the focus is on. That's where it's always been on, those two connecting. And as long as they're connecting and on the same page, then I think that this Bears team will be pretty good. It's definitely going to be a nice little team to follow, kind of dark horse kind of team to see what they'll do, since the limelight is not really on them that much anymore.
And also my favorite part is the emergence of
I love Captain Punch.
Martellus Bennett.
Oh, God.
Every type of lunch.
I'm going to find a way to play that, work that into every show.
I know you
I'm
will.
Just saying. Okay.
For Christ's sake.
Moving on, press for time. The Rams and the Falcons. Falcons have a second straight week where they get a big lead, or decent lead, maybe not big, but decent lead, and then have to hold on for dear life. Rams show a little bit of fight in them. Sam Bradford, 32 of 55 for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns. What is up with the Atlanta Falcons? Is this team for real, Jim?
Well, I think they're for real, but boy, they're just undergoing a terrible spate of injuries right now.
And Steven Jackson, Steven Jackson making my trade of him, making me look like a genius.
Yeah,
it is. But it's not just him; it's Roddy White. Eventually the injuries will start hitting the defense. They played a Rams team that, I don't think anybody was thinking that Sam Bradford would be much of anything in fantasy this year. I think people believed that defensively they would be great, offensively they might struggle, but they're a different team. And the fact that they kept up with them, even though, it was late in the game, it was a little bit of garbage time. I mean, it's a different team that over the course of the season should progress. Getting back to the Falcons, I'm concerned. I think they are for real, but this isn't kind of what you want to happen to a team that you believe might contend in the playoffs? Because right now it's happening. It does not bode well for them.
Right. You look at that box score, okay, and they don't score a point until they go the whole third quarter without scoring. They manage to put on a touchdown to ice it in the fourth quarter. At the same time, the Rams are scoring 21 points in the second half. So they lost the linebacker, what's his name, Witherspoon, in that game, and he's out for this week, if I remember correctly. This week they travel to Miami, and then they're home against New England and the Jets and the Bucks. 4 pretty good defenses back to back. So, who's the running back that's going to take over for the Falcons, Jim?
Oh, it's going to be running back by committee. I mean, it'll be a mix of Jaquez Rogers and Jason Snelling. Snelling's more of the traditional-looking running back, but I got a feeling it'll be more Jaquez as this offense really turns towards passing the ball. I can't recommend either for fantasy unless you're really desperate.
Let's see a touchdown.
I think Jaquez probably makes for the best flex play. The key here is to get Roddy White back healthy, and until they get him back, sooner or later they're going to lose a game. And I don't necessarily this weekend is a winnable game for them, but it's also a losable game for them.
Steve?
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. The Falcons, they do have a lot of talent, but losing both Roddy White and Steven Jackson this early in the season, I mean, even if it's only going to be for another couple weeks, it's damaging to a team that, they had to put up a tough fight at home against a chippy Rams team to squeak out that, a touchdown victory. But I actually have it picked this week for them to go 1-2 because, to me, going on the road to Miami with that defense, I think the Falcons, they're going to be looking forward to seeing the Jets next week. I really think that's something that, like you said, Jim, after this coming week with the Dolphins, they got a couple games, against the Jets, against New England, which is, as we were saying earlier, kind of rough right now. I think if they can make it through Miami, even if they lose, they'll probably be able to take the next 2 games and hopefully get one of those guys back. And, I mean, they need it. They really need it.
All right, Monty?
I agree with what Jim said and everything. This is a team that I still do not trust. They went and made some off-season moves that have them primed not to only make the playoffs, but to be in the Super Bowl. That's what kind of moves they made. And they're just getting hit by the injury bug, which is something that you just can never anticipate as a team. But still, at the end of the day, I don't trust Matt Ryan all the way yet to just get it done. And I still, something about their defense, to let some teams like the Rams come back like that. You got to kind of put your foot on the necks of squads once you're up on them like that, because we already know that they have the offense. But it's their defense that have lost them games, prior to in playoffs. So I know that they'll be there. I just don't know if I entirely trust them yet.
Look on the bright side. Maybe the Browns will trade for Darrell Richardson so they don't have to pay for a new jersey.
Just keep doing.
Sorry. Bills and Panthers. E.J. Manuel earns his stripes a little bit, throwing a game-winning touchdown to Stevie Johnson, and Cam Newton goes home 0-2. Jim, what's your takeaway from this game?
God bless E.J. Manuel. Love that guy. He's exactly what I've been saying. He's a fellow that can execute an offense. He doesn't have to play like a superstar. He just has to be good enough to get the job done, and he's doing it. I love the Bills this weekend against the Jets, especially their defense and fantasy. For the Panthers, obviously, I'm concerned about them. I think they're 0-2 now. They're going home, and it's not going to be an easy game against a Giants team that really needs a win. They lost Charles Godfrey, their leader and safety, for the Panthers, and they're not going to have DJ Moore this weekend. So they've got a depleted secondary going against a very powerful set of wide receivers in the Giants. So I'm not going to be surprised if this team doesn't end up 0-3 after this coming weekend.
Oh, Steve-O.
No, to me, after watching that comeback and watching that last drive, I've never in my life, ever considered wearing, I'm not saying buying,
Oh my
but
god.
wearing a Buffalo Bills jersey.
Oh my
If
god.
somebody bought me an EJ Manuel jersey, I would wear it with pride.
Oh my god.
I think he's still rough around the edges, but he has such potential, and he's such a well-rounded, not only player but person. Just watching the emotion he had after that win, to me, that if I was a Buffalo Bills fan, I would look at that and have such hope for the future, because you have your guy after all of these years of rotating quarterbacks. I firmly believe you have your guy, and so to me, it's nothing but uphill for Buffalo. I mean, I still don't think they'll make the playoffs this year because they do have kind of a tougher schedule late. But I mean, next year you're looking at a team, especially if they can keep Fred Jackson, who came up big on that last drive, to go with Spiller, Stevie Johnson, and if they could keep improving on that defense, next year you might see Buffalo in the playoffs, breaking that run of not making the postseason. I mean, I think it's nothing but uphill for them.
Well, Monty.
No, I can agree. The Bills are definitely an up-and-coming team. I definitely like EJ Manuel. I like the pick. I think they hit it right on the head when they picked him in the draft. He's an upstanding guy. Had a pretty good combine as well. But he's definitely showing some grit out there. And unfortunately, it's against the freaking Panthers. So with me living down here in North Carolina, I was smiling from ear to ear just to kind of see people's reactions from it, because just time after time they're getting let down, and it's because their offense can't click. Cam Newton does not look like the Cam Newton that he used to be when he, in his rookie season. So there's a ton of problems over there on the Panthers side offensively, but on the bright side, like you guys said, the Bills are definitely making some moves to definitely be to be good, and they found their guy in EJ Manuel.
All right. The Packers and the Redskins. Green Bay lights it up. Aaron Rodgers passes for 480 yards and 4 touchdowns. Redskins late again to the game. Don't show up until the second half. Robert Griffin III is not the same RG3, whether it's rust from missing the preseason or whether it's psychological with the knee injury or both. Jim, what are you taking away from this game?
Well, for the Packers, if they want to contend, they're going to have to do something about their pass defense. So far, every game, they've given up a pile of yards, a pile of scoring, and that just doesn't bode well if you want to become a championship team. Thankfully for them, there's 15 weeks in the season. They can work through this. For the Redskins, wow, this weekend is kind of do or die for them. It's a shame that they're struggling. They obviously have a much better team. Robert Griffin III does look like he's off. He's not tremendously off. I mean, you look at his stats, and they're actually good stats for a pocket quarterback. It just doesn't have the yardage and the TDs, the rushing TDs that we saw from him last year. So it's sort of changed his game, or his game's a little different right now. Hopefully he can work through it real soon, because they need him, because things do not look good for them this coming weekend. I'm very glad Alfred Morris got back into the stat column with, I forget what he had, 120 all-purpose yards. They need to get that rushing game going if they're going to succeed.
Agreed. Steve-O.
To me, both these teams are, to use Dennis Green, they are what I thought they were. I mean, the Packers, I thought they'd be one of the best teams in the NFC. They are. I mean, talk about a rough opening. They opened against San Fran, and they almost come back to win that game. And this game, they're up 38-7 in the fourth quarter, and they gave up a couple garbage time touchdowns. To me, the Green Bay Packers are going to be exactly where I thought they would be, which I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. They're definitely going to be in contention. They're going to be one of those teams that's going to be up there with Seattle, with San Francisco, fighting for that berth to the Super Bowl. And the Redskins, I mean, RG3 is almost playing exactly what I said he would, where you were arguing with me, Mr. Grieve. He looks
I don't
scared.
remember that.
He looks scared. I mean, he has the majority of his stats have come at the end of the game when they've already been down by a ton. I mean, that happened with Green Bay. It's just in the first half, he is, and he even admitted to it. He said that he puts a lot of blame on himself because he just does not seem comfortable. I mean, there's a lot of reports saying that he's going to run more next week. I think that's a horrible idea because too many people are trying to compare him to Adrian Peterson, who is somebody on an island of his own. There is nobody that can compare to him. He is Adrian Peterson, and everyone else is down. So I'm just worried about them pushing RG3 too much, too fast, and him having a career-ending injury like week 3, week 4, when he should be sitting right now until he's 100%. Maybe he should be pulling a Derrick Rose, to where, unlike Derrick Rose, he's come back and proven that he's not quite there, at least for himself, and he just doesn't look comfortable being just a pocket guy. Mm-hmm. So, to me, I agree with Jim. I think the Redskins are going to be 0-3 after this week. I really do.
All right, Monty?
Basically, the Redskins are what I thought they was going to be. I mean, they did come back and they got healthier on the defense, but the thing about RG3, and like you guys said, he does have decent pocket quarterback stats, but that's not what RG3 was drafted for. He definitely had the skills of a pocket quarterback, but he also had another dynamic and another dimension to him, which just made him a phenomenal player. And now we're starting to see him be kind of ordinary. They had their skills and everything like that off of last year. Their success was from him being able to rush well and Alfred Morris being able to rush well. And with him not rushing, as much as he done anymore, that basically has changed the whole dynamic of the offense. I agree. I think he should have sat out a little bit more. I think that they should have kind of milked Kirk Cousins a little bit further because he is a tremendous backup, and people were trying to get him to be a starter. But I think that they should use that to their advantage, because most teams don't have that great backup that Kirk Cousins can do to keep them at least, in games, maintaining games like he can, to even win them sometimes too. As far as Green Bay, God bless Aaron Rodgers for getting back on track. He helped me to win a couple of games in fantasy myself, so thank you for that, Aaron. But as far as their defense and everything like that, like Jim said, their passing defense is horrible, and it's always been their defense when it's come with the Packers that kind of have been questionable. We already know that they can throw up points. So, and then I was also sad to see Eddie Lacy get put out like how he did. Because I definitely, I definitely had him doing some things as far as picking up some things here and there as far as a flex kind of guy.
And let me interject something real quick on what you said, because and I apologize for taking over this, but going off of what you just said, and Keith, I was supposed to. He reminded me to mention this. I'm really kind of upset with the NFL and the fact that with all of the talk on issues with concussions and whatnot, Brandon Merriweather, who proved this week that he is not only a danger to the other players in the league, but to himself, had two of the most egregious helmet-to-helmet plays I had seen in a long time. And he not only didn't get a call on either of them, but he has not been fined, and he has not shown any kind of suspension. And to me, those two plays would have been flagged 10 years ago. And it was really, especially the first one on Eddie Lacy, that was a blatant spear with his helmet. It was, and like you were saying, Mike, for a young, up-and-coming running back like Eddie Lacy, that could have been something that could have seriously damaged his career if it was any worse. And I'm really kind of upset with the NFL that they have not done anything. You've heard nothing but Golston over these last few days. But to me, Merriweather, and this is not the first time he's had these issues, something needs to be done with this guy.
Well, just as you were talking about that, I looked it up, and the league has said that he'll be fined, but they haven't fined but not suspended. But they haven't said what exactly that fine will be. In 2010, when he was with the Patriots, he was fined $50,000. It was reduced to $40,000 on appeal. This is all from ESPN.com.
But once again, fines don't mean anything anymore. That's the problem with the NFL. Fines mean nothing. These guys are making enough money, and who knows if even the teams are covering some of these fines for them. They needed to start suspending players.
He learned his lesson. He had to learn his lesson, man, from giving himself a concussion. I think that was probably the best punishment that he could have got. By giving himself a concussion. What an idiot. That was hilarious to me.
He is an idiot. I don't trust the fact that he just learned his lesson on his own. Someone or either the organization or the NFL, they have to do something more severe than just a fine. Because obviously it didn't work in the past. And like I said, he could have, we don't know how long Eddie Lacy is going to be out with this. And now you have a young rookie who has a serious concussion on his record due to this ass that decides he wants to break the rules and try to be a badass by leaving with his helmet. That really, it pissed me off when I saw that. That was ridiculous.
He's really angry.
It wasn't horrible.
He's really angry because he made a very risky fantasy football trade to draft.
Oh,
Eddie
see, that's the
Lacy.
thing. I'm not even caring about fantasy football right now. I hate Green Bay, and I know I'm not caring about fantasy football. I'm caring about.
Eddie Lacy.
Everyone is
You're
saying a
looking out
black
for
guy
Eddie
in the
Lacy.
NFL, and this is a black guy in the NFL.
Okay. Are we done?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
The Dolphins travel into Indianapolis and pull out a win. I picked them to win 10. And we're back on the air. A little technical difficulty. Let me take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get the boys together and finish the football talk. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Do you feel like everything you do just opens a door that'll make things worse? Does it seem like even if you try, the moral of the story goes and pisses him off? Maybe I could offer up an answer.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Hopefully we can finish this show without any more technical issues. Apparently unable to recover Monty, the sportologist. If you're listening, call back in. We're going to go through the rest of week 2 and then get to our predictions for week 3. When we left, we were wanted Jim's take on the Colts-Dolphins game. So why don't we pick up there, Jim? What's your takeaway from that game?
You know, the Colts were a little bit exposed in that game, and good for the Dolphins to have sort of, that was a big win for them because the Colts have been highly touted, especially Andrew Luck, and the Dolphins were traveling to a hostile environment, obviously, in Indy on the road, and they actually snuck away with the win. Ryan Tannehill, I think, he's going to be better than what his present numbers are showing, especially once he gets Mike Wallace involved in the offense, and that's what he did this weekend, and that was huge.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Steve?
Oh, I was just going to say the only thing the Colts, in my opinion, were showing early on in the season is they lacked a rushing attack. Problem solved.
Right.
Agreed.
Theoretically. It was nice to see Lamar Miller show up for the Dolphins, and I don't want to jinx it. I think it's time for everyone to start taking the Dolphins a little bit more seriously in the NFL.
Agreed.
The Cowboys going to Kansas City, and the Chiefs pull out a 1-point win. I tweeted during the game that the Cowboys should find a way to only pay Romo 3/4 of his salary because he seems to only play 3/4 of the game. Obviously, the fourth quarter. I'm talking about him disappearing. Jim, what do you take away?
You know, the Chiefs' defense, I think, is what I take away from that game. I mean, Des Bryant put up, 140 yards and a touchdown, and they still lost?
Yeah.
That's just obscene. And, you know, the Chiefs are going to be tested this weekend, and if they can pass that test, I think this is a team that, you know, they're not the Broncos, but people should give them a little bit more credit than I think that they're getting. For the Cowboys, man, they really needed to pull it together. This could have been a huge win for them. And I think this weekend will be telling for them against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
I tip your cap to the Chiefs because the Cowboys went nuts in the first quarter, and then after that, it seemed like they had a lot of trouble doing anything offensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the chefs are for real, and it was good that they got Dwayne Bowe involved in the offense finally.
Still referencing that Snickers commercial.
Yeah, it's nothing better.
Chargers at the Eagles. Chip Kelly and his high-octane offense puts up 511 yards. The only problem was the Chargers put up 539 and also had the ball for 40 minutes, and they ended up with a 3-point win, 33-30. Me personally, the Eagles' offense is what it is. It's fun to watch and all, but if you can't sustain drives, if you can't limit the opposition's chances from scoring, you run the risk in the NFL of doing this. And when your defense can't make stops, you're going to struggle like the Eagles did. I don't want to say they struggled; they lost. You're going to lose like the Eagles did. Jim, what do you think?
Steve, I echo your comments. I just want to point out, wow, how impressive is Phillip Rivers? I mean, he was a cast-off stepchild for the last 2 seasons, and certainly this offseason, and in 2 games, he's got 7 passing touchdowns. It's incredible.
He was the football equivalent of Fredo.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And then Antonio Gates, I mean, no one's really talking about it, but I think he had 140 receiving. You know, put to the side Eddie Royal's standout performances the last 2 weeks, but Antonio Gates is still showing very quietly he's still a top tight end in this league, and I'm really looking forward to their game this weekend.
No, but correction, Jim. One person has been talking about Antonio Gates, and that is you, the sportologist. Last week you said, watch out for Antonio Gates. I think he still has some left in the tank. Yeah, 8 receptions for 124 yards. I say that's some left in the tank.
Thanks so much for that, Steve. I
You're welcome. I just want our fans to know that you know what you're talking about because...
Well, I won't even bring up that during the just recapping this game, Jim, you called me Steve, and Steve, you called Jim the sportologist. So
well, now we're all even, I suppose.
We're plugging everybody.
We're after me. Yeah, anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter who said what. Free plugs. Come on our show. You'll get free plugs regardless of what you say.
Absolutely.
All right. And so the Cleveland Browns travel to the Baltimore Ravens, and on the day where they unveil their new championship banner, they look anything like a championship team, waiting until the second half to score any points. The Browns' defense, once again, I feel for these guys. A valiant effort trying to keep the game close, but they just could not do anything offensively, and now obviously we broke down the trade and everything like that. Baltimore this week has the Texans coming to town, so it doesn't get any easier. Where are the Baltimore Ravens? I mean, I think I picked them 9-7 this year. I think maybe that was a little high.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way. I actually have to give credit to something Monty said when we were off the air before coming onto the show, how the AFC North has actually gotten softer. And it really didn't dawn on me until he made that comment that there's some truth to that. I mean, the Bengals lost to the Bears. That's the last team I would ever expect to see them losing to. And then they beat the Steelers, I suppose, fairly handily. But it wasn't like the Steelers didn't put up, they put up some kind of a fight. It wasn't like everything that the Bengals did they were successful on. So, I think that's kind of a true comment. You had these two teams that sort of had to fight back and forth until the Ravens finally won. A year ago, the Ravens would have crushed them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that didn't happen.
Well, I just think you have to be concerned when your $120 million quarterback cannot put up a single point in the first half against the Browns. Now, mind you, his wife was having a child, and he decided to go to play the Browns instead of being at the birth of his child. But still, you're making $120 million playing against the Browns, who have a better defense, but it is still the Browns, and you can't put up 1 point in the first half. To me, that is a red flag right there.
Well, it's because Tyrod Taylor's his backup. You wouldn't leave your team to Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, come on. Birth of your child. It's a whole different ballgame.
I know. Anyway, Titans at the Texans. Not a lot of fight these Titans put up. They take the Texans to overtime. Andre Johnson leaves with an apparent concussion. DeAndre Hopkins steps up admirably. Jim, takeaways?
Wow, what a rivalry. I mean, Cortland Finnegan's gone, and yet Andre Johnson takes on a huge hit from Bernard Pollard. I suppose some things are just meant to be. I'm impressed by the Texans' passing offense. In the last 2 weeks, they've just done some things that, Matt Schaub's another guy. One of the things that I write about on my site in the top 5 picks is on the public side, and then through, I suppose, various comments on the private side of the site, is that you've got 6 quarterbacks last week that played like QB1s, and they were not drafted as QB1s, and Matt Schaub was one of them. And I think right now he must be ranked in most leagues in the top 10. They were able to play well without Andre Johnson for the first time through DeAndre Hopkins, which is absolutely impressive. They don't need their running game like they did last year to keep the team going. For the Titans, Jake Locker, that's going to hold them back, but they're still playing some pretty good ball. Chris Johnson is very quietly just doing his job as a running back. I was looking at his stats, and do you realize that I think he's only had 1 reception for 1 yard, and otherwise all he's done is run the football? That is amazing. And I think this weekend he potentially could break out. So I like what I'm seeing on both sides. The Titans need to get Jake Locker going or look towards the future. And on the Texans side, they're just doing things differently, but still doing it well.
I think that Jake Locker's stat line is the kind of quarterback he is. 17 of 30, 148 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
He's kind of like a Trent Dilfer that season with the Ravens where they won the championship. He won't win the game for you, but he won't necessarily lose it for you, which has its perks. It has its positives and negatives. But like Jim said, if Johnson could find a way to spark something, the Titans, they might, I think I picked them sub 500, but they might make a little bit of a push and get to either 8-8 or 9-7. I mean, there's a possibility.
All right, Lions at Arizona. Arizona comes 25-21 with a victory. Larry Fitzgerald limited due to a hamstring. Rashard Mendenhall finds the end zone. Matthew Stafford, 24 of 36, 278. Calvin Johnson, 6 catches, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like we said, the Lions are an enigma. They just are, and I wouldn't have picked them to lose this game. I don't think the Cardinals are that strong, but losing games like this makes you question everything you believe about the Detroit Lions. Jim, what do you think?
Yes, because if you're going to be a great team, you have to win the close games, and you have to beat teams like the Arizona Cardinals. It's not to say that they're a bad team, but you can see that on the field that they seem like they're missing a little something, or there's a little something that the Lions have that the Cardinals don't. I mean, you look at the Cardinals, the gut of their defense. I mean, what an impressive group especially along the defensive line. And yet, Rashard Mendenhall, didn't he have the winning touchdown? Right?
Yeah, he scored. He scored it with at 1:59 left.
Yeah, I mean, that's just amazing. You shouldn't let that happen. So that's something the Lions need to do. I still like the Lions. They're certainly a better team than the Vikings, and I can't wait to see them play the Bears because that's going to be a telling game in the NFC North.
I agree.
Yeah, I see the Lions going from week 1 to week 2. It's obvious that their offense needs that running back. They need that guy that can run the ball and catch the ball out of the backfield. And, they had Reggie Bush in the first game, and they were very successful. And he wasn't there in the second game because of injuries, or he was very limited. And you could see how much their offense sputtered. And so, I mean, really, it showed that they need that presence. They need that running back to really help them. And I don't think Bell's going to be the man. So they need Bush to get healthy. And like all of us in life, they need some Bush.
We all could use healthy Bush.
Yes.
So
it's after midnight. Anything goes.
When I look at the Lions, I look at their penalties always in the box score, and they were only penalized one more time than the Cardinals, 8-7. But those 8 penalties went for 101 yards. It just makes stuff like that just makes life harder than it has to be.
Agreed.
All right. Let's see. We got the Saints pulling out a 2-point win over the Buccaneers at home. Drew Brees throws for over 300 yards. Jimmy Graham, 179 yards.
Beast.
Josh Freeman, 9 of 22 for 125 yards, but Doug Martin comes up with 144 yards on the day. We were talking during the break. Schiano, if he's not on the hot seat, he's on his way out. But Josh Freeman now reportedly doesn't want to be there. It's a mess. But this was a game where the Saints were only winning by 2 doesn't give me any more confidence in them. Jim, what's your take?
It's not so much about the Saints as I thought it was about the Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. I mean, that defense 2 weeks in a row, and I know their first week game was against the Jets, but 2 weeks in a row, they've basically limited their opponent to under 16 or less points. They've got an array of sacks, they've got a good defense. And this weekend, it's just going to be telling what they do with the Patriots, especially since they practiced with them in the preseason. I thought they had sort of a rough game with them in the preseason. I think Tom Brady threw for 100-some yards in a TD, but it was to Danny Amendola. So this is one that the Bucs could steal away, and the Patriots could lose. And Josh Freeman, they need the kid. I mean, how do you take a guy that his rookie season was so promising and suddenly have a player that, whether it's true or not, there's at least reports floating out there that he's unhappy? This is the one person on your team that shouldn't be happy, and that's your starting quarterback.
He was 9 of 22 with only 1 sack. The Buccaneers were penalized 10 times for 118 yards.
Ooh.
That's nuts.
And that's not, I don't think that's Josh Freeman's fault.
No, that's coaching. That's discipline.
And I mean, you look at, and I agree with Jim about the defense. I mean, you look at their defense. If, other than a complete bonehead play at the end of that Jets game, not only do the Buccaneers win that game, but they hold the Jets to only 3 points in the second half. I mean, the Buccaneers, they do have a solid defense. They need to figure out what the hell's going on in offense. I mean, their running game is it's obviously not the problem. I mean, you have Martin. Yeah, he ran 29 times, but 144 yards. I mean, that's a workhorse right there. That's what you need. And I know it was going against the Saints, whose defense is still a little rough, but the Buccaneers really are an enigma. If they can just figure out what the hell's going on quarterback wise, and do something, that defense is strong enough to win some games as long as they don't lose it on the offensive side.
If the Buccaneers probably in most fantasy football leagues are a top 10 defense right now, despite their record against Drew Brees, who is considered one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not by many the best quarterback, who's a surgical passer, was limited in this game. I mean, let's see what they do here. They sacked him 4 times. That's unheard of. And intercepted him twice and scored a defensive touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive. If they do the same thing against Tom Brady, I mean, I have them as a defense to add off your waiver wire if you have the room for them. I wouldn't be scared to play them this weekend because this is not the same Patriots team from last year.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, if you just go by points allowed, and they've played, I mean, the Jets, rookie quarterback, but I mean, playing the Saints, that's a high-powered offense, one of the best in the league. Right now, they're ranked 8th in points allowed. You look at a team like San Francisco, we're supposed to have the best defense in the league, they're 27th in points allowed. They've given up 57 points so far this season. So, I mean, Tampa's doing something right. I mean, their defense is there. They just, it's weird.
And there's already rumors about Mike Glennon being the quarterback of the future, really, there. At least somebody willing to give him a shot. So it's only a matter of time. And if Schiano's feeling the heat, Freeman's days in Tampa Bay are numbered one way or another. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if anything, Mike Glennon is really a motivational factor for Josh Freeman. And if Freeman isn't, I don't really think he needs motivation other than to be on the team and play ball. Their biggest problem is their offensive line. It's not like Josh Freeman steps down into the pocket and he's not under any pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is under pressure. And, I mean, they're depleted. It's not very deep. So, they just got to make him happy and make him believe. And Mike Glennon is not the answer.
The Jaguars travel to the Raiders and the Terrell Pryor Raiders and lose 19-9 in the black hole, which ironically is probably not far from where they'll call them their future home in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
That's a joke. Is there any hope for Jacksonville to win 3 games this year, 4 games?
No. No. I think the Jaguars are embarrassing, and especially with Jones-Drew hurting his ankle, and he is definitely the best player on their offense. And, I mean, who knows what's going on quarterback-wise. The defense is atrocious. And to the point where I actually feel bad for what happened. Did you hear about the news station that had to show their games running an apology on a ticker below it?
The Jaguars give up 226 rushing yards to the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
129 to Darren McFadden, 50 to Terrell Pryor, 32 to Rashad Jennings, and 15 to Marcel Reese.
I tell you, Darren McFadden should send them a thank you note because this is the boost he needed to get himself back on the horse.
You think so?
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, there's not much to say. I mean, there really isn't. Again, I can forward a resume. I'm available. Chad Henne, I'm so glad Chad Henne is starting.
He had a nice game.
Yeah, he didn't have a bad game. I mean, they had absolutely no rushing, and in part it's because Jones-Drew went down to an injury early. In fact, they need him this week, and if he doesn't play, you look at their depth chart, and it's the backup's Justin Forsett, and no one's taken him seriously for at least 3-4 seasons now. Denard Robinson's certainly not the answer. And if we just look around and go into the passing game, Justin Blackman still, he's 2 weeks away, I think, from returning. Cecil Shorts is solid. Ace Sanders seems to have little flashes, but, it's only going to go so far.
Agreed.
For the Raiders, God bless Terrell Pryor, but again, that's not the answer. If he can't sort of become a quarterback and he's just constantly either, oops, do I have somebody to throw to? Oops, better run.
15 of 24 for 126 yards. Most days will not get it done in the league.
It's not going to get it done if you don't have a defense, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to get it done if you've got to play a high-tempo offense that can score, on most of their drives compared to yours. Mm-hmm. Janikowski's not going to win a game without a good defense.
Right. Then we had the Manning Bowl, Denver at the New York Giants. Eli struggling mightily early. Peyton,
disappointing.
Yeah, Peyton's the same old Peyton, but Eli,
he's trying too hard. He's trying to win the game single-handedly. And
the only good thing is that the Giants were also 0-2 in 2007 when they ended up defeating the Patriots in the Super Bowl, so all is not lost yet, but we'll talk in a little bit about their game coming up this week. Anything special to take away from this game besides just, oh my God, Giants?
I would say there's a concern that it might not be that big a concern yet, but it's the second week in a row that the Broncos did not show up in the first half. And that, to me, for a team as talented as they are with the offense they have, I just don't understand what goes on in the first half. It's just, the fact that the Giants were only down 1 point in the third quarter. The way they were playing, the Giants were not playing well, and pretty much at all in this game did they play well. But Denver's, it took the third quarter, and then, they scored 10 in the first half, and they score, 31 points in the second half. And the same thing happened last week against the Broncos. And it might not be anything, but it is a potential chink in the armor. Kink in the armor.
Kink in the armor, yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not a racist. I misspeak this late.
Steve, I was just going to say maybe to allay your fears is just, it's the beginning of the season. I would anticipate that offense should be clicking, more towards the beginning of the games as the season progresses. That's my take on that. Because otherwise, the ball's even bouncing their way. It's like when Noshan Moreno picks up a fumbled ball, and I forget if he rumbled it in for a touchdown or almost rumbled it in, one way or another. Those are the kinds of signs and indicia of a good team. They're at the right place at the right time constantly. For the Giants, man, they really need David Wilson to show up. Mm-hmm. That this whole thing about sort of it's on Eli Manning's shoulders. You can kind of see. He's throwing the ball into spots that there's no. Well, I think there's some miscommunication. Mm-hmm. Like I saw him throw a ball to a spot, and Reuben Randall went the other direction. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's some miscommunication going on there. I'm a little concerned about Hakeem Nicks. We haven't heard much. He dislocated his finger during the game. No one's really said anything, but I'm thinking if you dislocate your finger, that might be something you want to take some days off and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So if suddenly it's just him playing catch with Victor Cruz, that could be tough going. So they need David Wilson to show up. Brandon Jacobs isn't the answer. Darrell Scott's not the answer.
What?
Here they got rid of, what's his name, Ahmad Bradshaw, and maybe in retrospect that wasn't such a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wrote about it in my Sunday recap that it's a 10-9 game at the half. The Giants get the ball back, and 7 out of their next 11 plays are passes.
Yeah.
David Wilson and Brandon Jacobs finished with 14 carries total between the two of them. You can't establish any kind of rhythm running that little.
It's awful.
And Eli's not Peyton. He can't be chucking it more often than Peyton does. Peyton,
now the set. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say Peyton threw it 43 times, Eli 49. That kind of ratio. I know. And then at the end, you're trailing, so you got to throw it. So it's a little skewed. Yeah. But you're not going to. You got to do something to establish some kind of run game.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that this weekend they're going to be able to, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Are we there yet?
No, we're almost there. We're almost there. 49ers at the Seahawks. The Seahawks lay a thumping down on the 49ers, but they also blew them out last year at Seattle. I'm not reading too much into this. Kaepernick shows his human side for the first time, but it was really Marshawn Lynch, no?
It is, but once again, I'm going to kind of say what I said earlier. I would be concerned with 49ers defense because they've given up a lot of points so far. More than for a defense that's supposed to be as good as they are. Like I said, as of right now, points allowed, they're 27th in the league. That is not what I expected the 49ers defense to be. And the way they played, I mean, the week one, they only won by 6 over Green Bay, playing in a beautiful sunny day in San Francisco. What's going to happen if they do not get home field and they have to play in either Seattle or Green Bay in the playoffs in December? That, I think, should be a concern. And the 49ers, they need to get home field advantage. That's exactly what this game proved to me.
I don't disagree with you, Steve. I think it's disconcerting. I wouldn't read much into it either, except for I really thought Colin Kaepernick would show up this time. Last year was sort of, his first game there. It bothered me that they really couldn't get a passing game going. Put the rushing game to the side, but it's a passing game that they need to prove themselves on, and they did that. No, the home game last year, Alex Smith was still the quarterback, so we'll see what happens when they get to San Francisco this year, which unfortunately I don't think is until December.
Well, and this Seattle defense is the real deal, too.
Oh, my God. They're incredible.
Yeah.
It really is.
But it seems to me Green Bay figured out how to stop him running, but then Seattle figured out how to stop both, him passing and him running. That was one of the best defensive games I've seen in a long time. It was so impressive.
Another thing, there's another safety in this game. Doesn't it seem like there's been an awful lot of safeties in the first two games?
You can dance if you want to.
I was expecting, a little bit more excitement out of you, Steve. This was like your theme song.
You don't understand. I'm doing the safety dance right now, but we're on a time constraint, so I'm not going to sing.
All right, enough of that. All right, and then the Monday night game, the Steelers losing 20-10. The only reason it was this close, I actually watched the game, the condensed game on the NFL Game Rewind app today because I was working a night shift at the day job. Ironical, I know. So I didn't see the game, but I watched the condensed game, and if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm really concerned. And the only reason this game was this close was because the Steelers' defense is still the Steelers' defense, but offensively, there's no sense of a running attack as far as the offensive line is concerned. Lots of pressure up the middle. And when Ben did have time to throw, what really struck me as kind of really worrisome is that when his receivers were open down the field or when he's making these long throws, he was overthrowing them. It seems like he's not in tune with his wide receivers on those kinds of throws. And at this point, after training camp, and these guys aren't new to the team, maybe new to their roles, but they're not new to the team. I would like Ben to be a little bit more accurate and throw a little bit more catchable ball in those situations. But if it's not happening yet, obviously you still got 14 more games, but I did pick this team to go 6-10, so I'm not all that surprised. But Jim, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they don't have a rushing game is hurting them. The fact that they're not, they try to solve everything through drafting Le'Veon Bell, and that obviously hasn't worked out well for them. There's really no good contingency plan. They need to get Marcus Wheaton, I think, involved in the offense. I think he would help tremendously. I've talked about him. I've touted him. He's on my list. I don't know if he's on the sleeper list or the super sleeper list, but he's a guy that can stretch the field and be a Mike Wallace, which Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown don't seem to be capable of. They need a guy like this, just to sort of shake things up. The Bengals, what a great win for them to finally put down one of their intra-divisional nemesis at their home field. It is a softer AFC North, so what you can take out of the win, I'm not so sure. I mean, A.J. Green, they stuffed him. He had 40 yards receiving or 46. I mean, that's incredible. The only problem with the Steelers' defense is they're not creating turnovers like they used to. Otherwise, they still played at a pretty damn good level. And for the Bengals, Joe Bernard, God, we need to see more of that kid. And, even if he's time sharing it with the law firm, that's fine, but we still need to see more of him.
Yeah. I agree. And I really do think the Steelers are in trouble. I mean, you look at next week, Sunday night game, at home against a really tough Chicago Bears team. And then the following week, they have to go to Minnesota. So, I mean, I'm going to make the call right now. I think the Steelers go into their bye week 0-4. And after that, I don't know if there's any salvaging any hope of the season after that.
And Steve, I have to say, what would you be? I don't know if I should call you our Swami or. I mean, I think you could be right. It's hard for me to say.
I was 10-6 last week, and I almost.
Or
got
not
that
Steve. I'm sorry,
game,
Keith.
so
I meant to stroke Keith. I'm sorry.
See. Yeah, I totally missed on the Redskins, but I was right about the Steelers.
Yeah.
Oh, and I might be right about the Dolphins too. So I guess 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah.
All right, moving forward, Week 3 picks, as we are completely over our time, but oh well, we'll just get this going anyway. We all agreed that the Packers are going to beat the Bengals. The Cowboys will beat the Rams. The Chargers will beat the Titans, although I will say that I was very tempted to pick Tennessee as an upset special at home. I really was. Minnesota will beat Cleveland. With a backup running back, backup quarterback, it should be a no-brainer. If Minnesota loses this game, Leslie Frazier should be on the hot seat. I'm just saying. The Patriots will beat the Buccaneers. The Saints will beat the Cardinals. The Giants will beat the Panthers. The Texans will beat the Ravens at home. The Dolphins, we all agree the Dolphins will beat the Falcons and go 3-0. We're all picking the Bills to beat the Jets. The Niners to beat the Colts, the Seahawks to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. If Seattle doesn't win that game, Pete Carroll should be fired. We're all picking Chicago to stroll into Pittsburgh and complete the misery. And we're all picking the Denver Broncos to beat the Oakland Raiders. So the 2 games that we had differing opinions about is the Thursday night game, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Philadelphia Eagles. This will obviously be emotional. Andy Reid. It'll be emotional for Andy Reid. I don't know how emotional the Philly fans are going to be because most Eagles fans are not. What's the word I'm looking for? They're not up on their social skills. But the Chiefs bring a lot to the table, but that Philadelphia offense is just an awful lot for anybody to deal with. And they're at home at night. Crowd's going to be amped. I am picking the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm also picking the Eagles, and one of the reasons is I know this is going to sound weird, but I would almost consider this a must-win for the Eagles just because the first 2 weeks have been such a contrast for them. The first week their offense was amazing. That's all anyone could talk about. But then the second week, all anyone could talk about is how bad their defense was. So to me, they need to find a way to win this game. I know it's not on national TV. It's going to be on the NFL Network, but it is going to be the highlight of Thursday night, and that's all anyone's going to talk about on Friday. And I think if the Eagles go 1-2, there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to come up. So to me, they are going to be playing harder than usual. To beat Andy Reid, even though most of the players still love him, but also because I think they really do need this win.
Yeah, and the disagreement is with me, I suppose. I actually took the Chiefs in this one, and it was a hard game to look at and kind of say, who's going to win? When we were talking off the air, one of the things I had mentioned, I think it is true, Week 3 there's a lot of teams that really need to win this week for a variety of reasons, whether it be to not go 0-3 or to show that they're really that good of a team. And I think that's sort of the Chiefs versus Eagles. They both need this game for so many different reasons. The reason why I like the Chiefs is so far their defense has been pretty darn good. Put Week 1 to the side, they did a good job shutting down a Cowboys defense, even though Des Bryant put up that 140 and a touchdown. I mean, they didn't waffle, they didn't waver. I know I've heard people talk about, with Coach Reid coming in, the defense is going to understand exactly what he's doing, and this and that. And, I'm looking at the Chiefs' offense, and they don't look – that offense doesn't look like the Andy Reid offense from his Eagles days. At least he's not using it the same way, it seems to me. Dwayne Bowe hasn't lit it up yet. The one thing, if you look at the Eagles, certain things favor the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored to have a better passing game than the Eagles in this game. The Chiefs are favored to be able to shut down and or slow down the Eagles' offense. And I think when you sort of put these things together, and by the way, Andy Reid's going to know their defense, even though the scheme may not be as familiar, the players are going to be familiar.
Right.
And I think that means something. Whether it's on offense, whether it's on defense, he knows these guys. So he can tell his guys, here's what you need to look for, here's what you need to do, here's how we slow down Mike Vick. So that's why I'm taking the Chiefs in this one. I think Andy Reid comes home and he steals one away from the Eagles because I think the Chiefs are going to end up being a better team than people expect. But if I'm eating those words next week, I wouldn't be surprised either.
All right. And the other game we have difference of opinions on is the Detroit Lions at the Washington Redskins game. We were talking about how bad Washington is, and this is a must-win for the Redskins, I believe. They don't want to go 0-3. The only good news for the Redskins is that they're not that far back. They're still a game back in their division because the top teams are 1-1. So it's not like they're losing that much ground, but they definitely do not want to lose this game. That being said, the real problem with the Redskins is their defense. As bad as RG3 has been in the first half and as good as he's been in the second half, he will be fine. The offense will be fine. The problem there is the defense, and Detroit has too many weapons offensively, even with a banged-up Reggie Bush. I am going to pick the Detroit Lions to win on the road.
See, this is where I picked Washington because of also the must-win situation. Because if I look at these two teams with the weapons that they both have, they're not. I mean, obviously they're not exactly the same because I'm not going to say Garcon is as good as Johnson or whatnot. But with RG3 having something to prove, and the Redskins have a very solid rushing attack, I just think that they need this so bad that these players are going to be playing as if it's the last game of the season. And to me, it is like Jim said, it's an up in the air game. I think these two teams are as equally matched as the Kansas City Eagle one. But to me, I think being at home with everything to prove, the Redskins are going to throw everything at the Lions, and they're going to win this game.
You know, the Eagles, I think, have given up 721 yards passing, something like that, and the Redskins have given up 621 and with 6 passing TDs. I mean, sort of, when you look at this matchup, everything screams towards the strength of the Lions, which is passing the football, which means you're starting Matt Stafford in fantasy, you're starting Calvin Johnson, expecting a great game from him. If Reggie Bush can't go, you're going Joyke Bell. I like everything, the way it's pointing towards the Lions and the way it's playing towards some of their strengths. And I think their defense is going to do enough to slow down the Redskins, especially with RG3 sort of playing less than RG3. And sort of for the same reason as I kind of like the Chiefs in that game against the Eagles, I like the Lions against the Redskins.
Alrighty. So there you have it, folks. Which one of your picks are you the most uneasy about?
Besides the two that we've discussed?
Yeah, for me it's Tennessee. I really wanted to pick Tennessee to beat San Diego.
I'm uneasy about that one too. I think there's games here that you can feel uneasy about.
Yeah.
I just, even the Giants game against the Panthers, I see so many reasons for them to win that game. But if that defense comes through for some reason, it could happen.
Yep.
I'm kind of now. I know that he's just been traded, but after how they played last week, and I'm not thinking. I picked the Niners to win, and I don't think they're going to play like they did last week because the Colts defense is nowhere near as good as Seattle's. But with the new move, and I'm interested to see what happens in that game now. Before, I thought the 49ers would have their way with them, but I'd be kind of interested to see what happens. I'm not saying, once again, that the Niners are going to lose, but it's going to be something I'm going to pay a little more attention to this week.
I'll add to the mix the Bills versus Jets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that game could easily blow up in all of our faces. But with that, we're going to end the show. We'll see you all next week. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.